Tonight, tragedy strikes in Vaughan as a 15-year-old boy is hit by two cars while walking to school.
I think that's very sad. That's extremely sad.
What we've learned about what led up to the fatal collision.
Fumes were coming out. You could smell it in the air.
Plus, an active day for Toronto firefighters, from a restaurant on fire in the beach to a fatal blaze on Coxwell.
You can see the warmth of the wood. It's really quite a nice space.
And fixing two problems at once, how Toronto innovation could help solve climate change and homelessness. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but we begin with a couple of stories breaking late tonight. First to Brampton, where one person has died after a shooting near Chinguacousy and Steeles. It happened just after 7 tonight. The male victim was found inside a car and rushed to hospital, but police later confirmed that he did not survive. Police don't have anybody in custody. Still, officers don't believe there's any threat to public safety. Here's more from Peel Police, providing an update from the scene.
Preliminary info told us that a suspect or suspects may have or may not have fled in a vehicle. We can't confirm at this time if that was, a suspect vehicle or just people fleeing, shots fired in their neighborhood.
Police say residents can expect a heavy police presence for the evening and into tomorrow. And back in Toronto, a fiery multi-vehicle crash caused total gridlock on the Gardiner tonight near Fort York. All eastbound lanes and 2 westbound lanes were closed for several hours, but reopened just a short time ago. The crash happened at around 7:30 tonight. Police say 2 Mercedes with Quebec plates were racing and caused the collision. 4 vehicles in total were involved. 2 people in one of the Mercedes allegedly fled the scene on foot. 4 people were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Now up to Vaughan, where a tragedy on the road was the focus of a police investigation through the day. This morning, a 15-year-old boy was killed after being hit by 2 vehicles. Investigators believe he was on his way to school, and tonight, the York Region District School Board releasing a statement acknowledging how difficult this tragedy is. Dale Manuktuk is live at the scene tonight. Dale, walk us through what you've learned.
Yeah, Chris, for most of the day, Weston Road was closed from Maria Antonia to Davos Road as police investigated this tragedy. It happened here at the intersection of Villa Royale Avenue. You can see there on the median several bouquets of flowers. This child's death has shaken the community. A parent's worst nightmare unfolding this morning in Vaughan. A child's shoe laying on the road, a backpack not far away, and a young boy found severely injured.
It appears as though this youth was struck by a vehicle, thrown a short distance, and then struck by a second vehicle.
It happened around 7:30. A 15-year-old boy was rushed to hospital and later pronounced dead.
Scary. I have siblings that go to high school and elementary school. It's scary.
That's very sad. That's extremely sad. And the cars need to go slower.
There is a video screen urging drivers to go slow on that stretch of Weston Road, though it's unclear if speed was a factor. The drivers of both cars remained on scene as the collision reconstruction unit investigated.
It's quite a busy area that time of day in Vaughan. Western Road is super busy, and both not just with vehicle traffic, but also pedestrian traffic because there are a number of schools in the area.
Police believe the boy was on his way to school. The York Region District School Board would not say anything about the victim, but in a statement to CBC Toronto, a spokesperson says in part, "This is a very difficult time for the family and those involved, and we ask for everyone to provide them with privacy and respect. Our focus as a school board today and in coming days is on ensuring that students affected by this news have support." Local politicians posted their condolences to the family, including Vaughan Mayor Stephen Del Duca.
I'm a father to a 9-year-old, kid, and I feel really sad, what some families would be going through, the family would be going through right now.
Now, Chris, I want to point out that here at this intersection, the buttons to trigger the pedestrian crossway don't work on both sides of the north end. It's unclear if that played a role in what happened today. That will all be part of the police's investigation. Police are providing victim support to the family, also supporting friends, classmates, and the school of this young boy. They're also asking that anyone with information or video contact them. Chris?
All right, Dale, such a tragic case. Dale Manukduk reporting live for us tonight in Vaughan. Meanwhile, York police are asking for the public's help tonight in the search for an arsonist. Investigators releasing surveillance video of the incident in Richmond Hill. It happened at about 1 a.m. yesterday morning at a truck yard in the Yonge and Centre Street area. You can see a man holding what appears to be a jerry can standing by some semi-truck cabs, and then moments later, the vehicles are engulfed in flames. The man is described as being about 5'8", with a heavy build, and he was wearing a black jacket and khaki pants. Back in Toronto, the fire marshal's office is investigating the cause of a fatal house fire at Gerrard and Coxwell. Ali Chiasson was on the scene first thing this morning and spoke to a tenant who was woken up by smoke but didn't hear any alarms.
Just looking at the house, you wouldn't know that there was a fire here if it wasn't for the fire truck parked outside. And that tells you that smoke did most of the damage.
Shortly before 5:30 this morning, Toronto Fire Services was notified of a fire in the residence here on Coxwell. Our first crew arrived approximately 5 minutes after receiving that call, and as they always do, immediately made entry into the home for the purposes of search and rescue.
One man from a unit on the top floor, he was pronounced dead on scene. No other injuries were reported, and there are at least 7 people who live in this rooming house. Was it up to fire code? Were there working smoke alarms? That's what the fire marshal is looking into.
We will also undertake a full inspection of the building to determine if the building was in compliance with the Ontario Fire Code, and that will include smoke alarms. If that is not the case, we'll take the necessary enforcement action.
I spoke with a tenant who said he was woken up by the smell of smoke and heard not one beep from a smoke alarm.
Let me just say, this is the right time right now to go and test your smoke alarms. We need to have working smoke alarms on every levels of our home and outside every sleeping area.
The coroner is on scene to help determine the cause of death. The cause of the fire is being investigated by the Office of the Fire Marshal. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
One fire truck after another arrived and people were running out and fumes were coming out. You could smell it in the air.
Firefighters were also called to Queen Street and Waverley Road in the Beach this afternoon after an electrical fire broke out in an Italian restaurant. Toronto Fire says crews met with heavy smoke billowing from the basement at La Sala restaurant. The fire was put out shortly after and no one was injured. An investigation is underway to determine what led to the blaze, but Toronto Fire says a dryer was possibly involved. Toronto's police chief was at City Hall today arguing for a $20 million increase for the police budget. City staff have recommended trimming that increase down to $7.5 million, but Chief Demkew says that would present an unacceptable risk for the city. Still, some councillors bluntly pushed back against him. For the full story, let's turn to City Hall reporter Sean Jeffords.
Toronto's top cop came to City Hall to defend the police service's $20 million budget ask.
Any reduction to our modest, below the rate of inflation ask of 1.7% will present an unacceptable risk to our ability to provide the adequate and effective police services that are required by legislation.
The Toronto Police Board unanimously passed the service's $1.3 billion budget in December, but it still has to be approved by city councillors. City staff have recommended that instead of a $20 million increase, the police get a $7.5 million spending hike.
I do ask of the city what options were weighed to determine that a $12.6 million cut to policing was responsible.
Councillor Lily Cheng pressed the chief bluntly to make the case for the 300 officers he wants to hire next year.
Are there areas of savings that can result in the necessary complement while maintaining this proposed cut to what is being requested?
We are very concerned about our ability to hope to deliver adequate, effective police services. Responding to a priority one call for context is when people's lives are in jeopardy. we're responding in over 20 minutes. This is not the standard.
Asked after the committee if he could promise response times would come down if the service received the hike, Dimku couldn't say.
There's a lot of variables there for me to consider to make a promise of that nature.
Budget Chief Shelley Carroll says the debate isn't about cutting the police service.
We do know that the force needs more support on the ground. What we're arguing about is our ability to pay and how fast we can do it.
Toronto's budget process continues next week across the city with in-person consultations. Then on February 1st, Mayor Olivia Chow presents her draft of the budget. And on Valentine's Day, City Council will hold one final vote. Sean Jefford, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, looking live outside, a bit of a warmer feel tonight. -6 degrees, feeling like -12 with the wind. Victor Paulo is here with the forecast. And Victor, what are you watching for with the weather?
Chris, taking a look at a couple of headlines here. We do have some more flurries heading our way, and it's still going to be another cold night, feeling like -17. And we do get eventually a break from all of this cold weather and also the return of the sun once we reach Sunday. Now, average temperatures this time of year, -2.3 is your average high, -10.7 is your average low. And here's that snow that's coming our way when it comes to Thursday morning. A lot of it's going to be south of the GTA as you do take a closer look. We're not expecting that much to pass us. As you do see 9 in the morning, maybe near Niagara, we're receiving a little bit more snow, but not so much for us. But what we will be receiving when it comes tomorrow morning is some scattered flurries. And when my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready, it's going to be -10, feeling like -18. And there will be just a touch of snow coming, but not too much. And the big story for the 3-day forecast here is some snow coming on Friday. Still feels like -18 on Saturday. And stay tuned to us, see what else is in store for your 3- and 7-day forecast. Over to you.
All right, Victor, we'll touch base with you again a little later on in the show. Focusing next on new demands from the Ontario Medical Association. The group is pressuring the Ford government to put more money into dementia home care. The calls come as experts say the number of dementia patients is rapidly growing in Ontario. Patrick Swadden has that story.
Ontario is getting older. Even with technology and healthcare improvements, more patients are being diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
There has been a 48% increase in patients with dementia since 2010.
And the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario estimates dementia patients will triple in 30 years, putting further strain on our healthcare system.
Alzheimer's and dementia is something that we don't talk enough about, from the numbers that we're seeing.
CBC News spoke to Stephanie Fauquier last summer, whose mother, Dr. Robin McLeod, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 2 years ago. She's raised $750,000 for dementia research.
So we really need to think differently about community care.
And today, the Ontario Medical Association calling on the government to do just that, put money into dementia home care.
Our system is reactive. It is crisis-driven.
Something the OMA says would be lessened with more home care resources and personal support workers.
These types of services are also very cost-effective for the province.
The Ministry of Health said in a statement to CBC News, our government has also made historic investments in expanding home care, investing $1 billion over 3 years into home care. But some say that's still not enough.
We're one of the countries in the world that spends the least on home care, comparatively to nursing homes.
Dr. Heckman says home care will keep people out of hospitals and nursing homes. And for a disease that strips autonomy and independence, Fauquier says that could make a big difference.
So the ability to stay at home for as long as possible, maintain your routine, is, the absolute and ideal state.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News.
Returning now with a renewed push to connect Brampton and Mississauga. The Ford government now saying it wants to return to a plan it scaled back in 2019, connecting the two downtowns with an LRT. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more on the reversal and the timing.
A light rail line that will link Brampton and Mississauga is likely going back to the original plan announced 9 years ago, with an extension in Brampton and a downtown loop in Mississauga. CBC obtained a letter the Minister of Transportation wrote to the CEO of Metrolinx yesterday, saying the Premier asked him to direct Metrolinx to create a plan with the expanded areas.
It's a part of a part of this province that has seen explosive growth, and people want to see more of that transit. And that's the commitment we made to the people when we were re-elected, that we're going to build Ontario, and that's exactly what we're doing here today.
In 2019, the Ford government canceled some stops in downtown Mississauga to save money. Now, the government is rushing to reverse that. The minister asks Metrolinx for an initial business case by February 5th.
I'm elated by the news.
Brampton's mayor is thrilled. That city council voted down the original plan in 2015 to have the line extend downtown. Patrick Brown says as a result, it was a missing link in the line.
So I've been lobbying the provincial government on this pretty relentlessly since I've become mayor. Frankly, it was a lot of, previously it was a lot of we'll look at it, but no commitments. And so there appears to be a real interest right now at Queen's Park.
It's called the Hazel McCallion LRT, named after the late former Mississauga mayor. The city's most recent former mayor says the expansion is needed for the anticipated growing population.
I'm delighted that they are doing the right thing.
But Bonnie Crombie is also the new Liberal leader, a new rival for the PC seats in Peel region that the government wants to keep.
I'll let you form your own conclusions, but let's hope that they're doing the right thing for the right reasons, not that it's a political maneuver.
Questions that remain are how much an expanded LRT could cost and when the line will open. It was initially supposed to be 2022, then changed to late this year. Now the Metrolinx website doesn't mention any date. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Taking you now to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, where some interesting innovation is on display at the Interior Design Show. As Talia Ricci reports, some cool ideas are looking at fixing both the housing crisis while also being more environmentally friendly.
So this is the cabin here.
And it's the first time this prototype is being showcased. SVN Architects and Two Steps Home hope these structures can play a role in the solution to Toronto's housing crisis.
The cabin itself is built of all natural materials. We're trying to use woods, fibers that are organic and low carbon, and then we're bringing those together to form a 10-meter square cabin that's fabricated in a shop and then delivered to site as a complete unit. And that way these things can be used over the long term and reused on different sites. So they can be picked up by a forklift and taken to another location.
The ultimate goal is to get these up around the city as communities with shared facilities for people experiencing homelessness, giving people a warm and safe place to live.
It feels like in Toronto right now there's a gap in the housing continuum between people who are living unsheltered and the supportive or affordable housing that is being built. A cabin community is meant to fill that gap. The idea of these cabin communities has been successful across the country. There's projects that are working very well in Kitchener, in Peterborough, in Duncan, BC.
This as Toronto's shelter system is struggling with capacity, with more people living on the streets than ever before.
So as we go inside, you can see the warmth of the wood. It's really quite a nice space, giving people really a dignity about having a home here.
It was part of the future neighborhood. The 6 installations focus on what's next in the future of design, including housing solutions.
Designers always come up with good ideas, and their job is to solve problems. So as well as creating beautiful things, they're really thinking about solutions the whole time. I think the future neighborhood is demonstrating to people like politicians good ideas that they can then implement into policy.
The city says it's looking at city-owned lands for permanent and temporary supportive housing, and considering rapid construction techniques like modular and micro-shelter options. Staff are expected to present options to City Council this spring.
2 of these cabins could actually be joined together to form a larger space for, say, a family or something.
Those wanting to be part of the discussions with the city hope solutions like this are implemented urgently.
An encampment is a symbol of a need. There's people who are falling through a gap in our current housing structure.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
We're hearing from the president of the Toronto Raptors today for his take on that blockbuster trade we told you about last night. Star forward Pascal Siakam, no longer a Raptor, now playing for the Indiana Pacers. Masai Ujiri admitting today it's been a tough few weeks for the team.
Incredibly difficult, but we're also excited about the new direction of the team.
In return for Siakam, Toronto gets veteran swingman Bruce Brown, 2 other players, and 3 first-round picks from the Pacers. A live look at Windsor as we head to break. -6, feeling like -13, and cloudy skies. Victor is back with the long-range forecast when we return. Ending the show tonight with more details on the long-range forecast. Another couple of cold days before a bit of a warm-up. Victor Paulo has the full weather picture.
Taking a look at the map of North America here, we'd just like to note a couple things. As you do see a lot of that cooling down from all of that Arctic air is reaching just right around the edges. You see a lot less numbers, which are as high as, for example, here in Alberta, -20, -16, over in Calgary. Now I see in Saskatchewan and Regina, it's over -22. Can't imagine what it's like for the wind chill. But when you look over here in Vancouver, you see that 0 degrees. That's because they're receiving a lot of freezing rain, and they're just right outside of that influence of that Arctic Circle and all of the cold air that it's bringing into us. Now, speaking of cold air and what's coming our way when it comes to tonight, well, it's going to be -10, feeling like -17. And taking a look at what else is happening is that we're going to be receiving a little bit of snowfall, but not too much. As much if you're going to be around 8 o'clock in the morning, if you're early traveling over to, let's say, over to Windsor, or over to the Niagara region, maybe going through Hamilton, you will be seeing more snow than over here in the GTA. Now, taking a look at that system passing by, the reason I say you'll be receiving more snow is because a lot of it is passing real south of where we're located. And that's why we're only going to be receiving closer to a centimeter of snow. Now, taking a closer look at what it's going to be looking like in the morning, here's a lot of that system that's passing by. Here's 9 o'clock, and as I did mention, early morning travels, if you are going from the GTA over to the southwest, you want to plan ahead because the road conditions might not be best, and we're expecting all of that snow to be all said and done closer to supper hour on Friday. Now, speaking of our 3 and 7 day forecast, we did tell you what else you can look forward to when it comes to after Sunday. Well, it's going to be snowing on Friday. You still get your -18. So for those that love snow, those that love cold temperatures, we got something in store for you. But those that like a little bit of a change of pace, well, it's going to feel like -8 on Sunday. And taking a look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, well, it's going to feel like -6 on Monday. And we've got a bit of precipitation our way on Tuesday. High of 3 degrees on Wednesday. And of course, is it really a Toronto system if there's not snow and rain? So right back to regular scheduled temperatures and conditions that we're used to. Stay warm, Toronto, and over to you.
Classic Toronto winters. All right, thank you, Victor. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11. We'll see you then.